So there's this common idea that you need to be successful first in order to be happy. That if we work hard enough and get good grades or get that job promotion, then we'll be happy afterwards. Shawn Achor challenges this theory in his book, The Happiness Advantage, and says that this way of thinking is flawed and completely backwards. He says that if we're always striving for success first, then we'll never get to that happiness because we'll keep raising the bar every time. And I've caught myself thinking this way many times, and I know a lot of other people have too. Getting so focused on the end goal that you either forget or you just don't allow yourself time to be happy during the process. But according to psychology studies, a positive brain has a biological advantage over brains that are neutral or negative. And this advantage of being happier first literally allows us to reach our goals quicker and in a healthier way. This book highlights 7 key principles or secrets to happiness and how it gives us an advantage over the people that have that backwards way of thinking. So principle number 1 is the happiness advantage. Happiness is relative and it's different for everyone. And because of this reason, it's hard to describe exactly what happiness is. So Shawn talks about a couple ways that we can boost our mood and benefit from this happiness advantage. Some of these mood boosters include meditation, exercise, conscious acts of kindness, and infusing positivity into our surroundings, our daily surroundings. So for principle number 2, he creates this metaphor that our mindset is like a fulcrum, and our control over our mindset is the lever. And if we mentally increase the lever, then we increase our control over our own mindset. We increase how much control we have over the way things affect us. And this gives us more power. It allows us to be more fulfilled and happier, and therefore more successful. So the Tetris effect is this concept that was created after the study of people that played Tetris for an arbitrary amount of time. And after they finished, they would literally see the world as Tetris. They would look at things and they would kind of imagine how other things would fit into things, like groceries on a shelf at the grocery store and stuff like that. This metaphor tells us that when we devote so much time and attention towards an activity, we tend to shift our way of thinking towards that activity. Our thoughts and dreams are patterned after that. That's why people say you should limit the amount of time you spend watching the news. It's all negative stuff, and whether you think it's true or not, it is impacting the way that you are viewing the world and your attitude and your behavior. We should instead be filling our days with as many positive things as possible. Shawn did a TED Talk and talked about how he was invited to come speak to some students on a college campus for their wellness week. The people on the phone were describing their wellness week to him, saying Monday was on adolescent depression, Tuesday was on school violence and bullying, Wednesday is on eating disorders, Thursday is on illicit drug use, and Friday is on happiness. Shawn replied and said, "Just so you know, that's not a wellness week, that's a sickness week." Outlining all the negative things that can happen and not talking about the positive things is exactly what this book is trying to shift our way of thinking away from. The 4th principle is this concept of falling up when we have our failures or setbacks on our path to happiness and a successful life. Instead of getting down on ourselves when we get a bad grade on a test, we should be falling up or figuring out what we did wrong and how we can do better next time. And I don't think this author is trying to say that you should avoid being sad when you have failures and when you have setbacks. I think it's perfectly fine to be sad, but he's saying that you shouldn't dwell on it for an unnecessary amount of time, and I completely agree with this. This next principle talks about how we can regain control of our happiness and minimize the amount of sad days or down days that we have. When we have a lot of tasks that we need to get done, or if we have a lot of emotions that we're trying to deal with, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. The best way we can manage this is to focus on small tasks and gradually expand our Zorro circle. Every time we expand our circle, we're gradually increasing the amount of tasks or the amount of emotions that we're dealing with at once. And this is a really good productivity tool too. The 6th principle is called the 20-second rule, and it's something that's really good for breaking bad habits. Shawn recalled a time in the book about how when he was trying to learn how to play the guitar, he was following this idea that if you can stick to a habit every day for 21 days, then it'll become habitual, it'll stick. He was doing good at first, but after a few days, he convinced himself that the 20 seconds that it took to take the guitar out and go to the living room and set up his practicing space wasn't worth it. 20 seconds of annoyance was all it took for him to convince himself that this cool talent of being able to play the guitar wasn't worth the minor effort. So what did he do? He bought a $2 guitar stand and set it up in his living room so his guitar would be in reaching distance. He put it on the path of least resistance, and he was able to play the guitar for 21 days, and it did become a habit. So to break our bad habits, all we have to do is make them 20 seconds harder to carry out. This makes them less desirable, and it makes it much easier to cut them out of our lives. So an example of this would be if you have a problem with snacking, a solution for this would be to either don't have the snacks in your house, makes it much harder to get them, or make the snacks, put it on a high cabinet, make it really hard to get to it. Your brain will tell you that it's not worth it, and you probably won't have as many snacks. The seventh and last principle is social investment, and how we should socially invest in ourselves. Our social support system is the key to success. And if you think you can get to where you want to get to all on your own, then you'll probably have a pretty hard time doing it. We need people around us. We need people building us up. He closes out the book by talking about the importance of positive emotions, how they're literally contagious, and they can help build a more positive work environment, school environment, home environment, anything. This book was life-changing, and it's completely changed the way that I view the world and am operating on this quest for a happy life. My current goal, which is a pretty big one, is to get into medical school. I know that if I didn't have this happiness advantage type of thinking, that once I got into medical school, I would immediately raise the goal. So right now I'm telling myself that I'll be happy once I get into med school. But once I do, I'm gonna raise that goal even more. I'll say I won't be happy until I graduate med school, or I won't be happy until I get that specialty that I've always wanted. I have to allow myself to be happy first and foremost, because that'll not only make the process 100 times more enjoyable, but I'll be able to make sure that I'm working towards a career that I know I'll love and I'll be happy in. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's life-changing.